My name is Dr. Derek Anong, and I would like to welcome you to the 2021 Gene Harris Jazz Festival. Our continuing mission is to support comprehensive music education at Boise State University and to provide enrichment opportunities for our community and schools. This is only possible through the support of our patrons, community, and the university. So we thank you all for empowering us. On our interview today, this is going to be a really special interview for me. I have two good friends of mine, and we all share a common bond that we all went to the University of Miami, Frost School of Music. Oh yeah, well, here we go, that way. Anywho, so, and actually I didn't run into Emmet there. I just missed him, but Veronica and I did run into each other while we were down there. And so this is going to be a very fun interview and a lead up to their concert, which is going to be a duo concert. It's going to be super duper awesome. So I'm going to introduce them right now. In the left corner, we have Veronica Swift, and coming off of her website here, she's become one of the most sought after talents in jazz. Having recorded her first album at age 9, Veronica gained the experience of a seasoned jazz musician at a very early age. She moved back to New York City in 2017 and has performed weekly residencies at Birdland and is frequently on tour with Chris Botti. She released her 2019 album Confessions under the Mac Avenue label and is working on a new album with Emmet as we speak. Welcome, Veronica.
Hi, Derek.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm really happy you reached out to me.
Absolutely.
These kinds of interviews are great because they make me feel like I'm part of something again.
Mm-hmm. And it's all going to come back. So over in the right corner here, we have Mr. Emmet Cohen, and he's hailing from New York City. He's known as one of his generation's most pivotal figures in music and the related arts. He leads the Emmet Cohen Trio and is the founder and creator of the Masters Legacy series. He's also no stranger to Tree City up here. He's been out here with the Boise Jazz Society a couple of times. And in fact, I saw him on the docket because I'm part of the Boise Jazz Society. I was like, oh my God, it's Emmet. It was super cool. And his hair is totally different now, which is awesome. He's appeared in tons of different jazz festivals: Newport, Monterey, Jerusalem, North Sea, also at Jazz at Lincoln Center's Rose Hall, the Kennedy Center, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd also like to welcome you, Emmet.
Thank you. It's nice to see you, Derek. It's been a while, and I miss all you lovely people in Boise, and I'm excited for our imminent return.
Absolutely. So now that the formal part is out of the way and I said all the things I was supposed to say correctly, I want to just kind of turn the question over to you guys. So first question, and I know everyone is dying to know this about everyone else because we're all kind of starved for attention from each other, is what are you doing to stay busy during the pandemic? Why don't we start with you, Veronica?
Well, it's, I kind of in a backwards way kind of got what I was asking for the last couple of years in terms of, oh man, I want more time to be working on other creative, because when you're out on the road all the time, you barely even have time to practice sometimes, so let alone write new music. Or for me, I write musicals and screenplays, and I'm an actress as well and have worked on film, and I've been dying to get into that industry. And so this year has actually given me the time I require to do such things. I've been working on a film of mine called Dear Old Stockholm, and but also have been taking the time I so richly need to be with my family, just really get in touch, because I'm never going to have this kind of time again in my life until I'm like done touring pretty much. So I'm really just kind of focusing on the mindset to be present and appreciate what the world is feeding me and just do what I can with it. And it's difficult. There's a lot of adjustments happening, not just professionally, but we all need to do that personally as well. And so I've been doing that. I had a couple, and as Emmet will tell you too, we did have some gigs, not too much, but I guess as much as one can have, which has been nice. Really significant gigs too for us in any year. So I went to Italy and did the most amazing gig out in Florence and met the most amazing people. And that changed my life too. And I'm just, that kind of just sums it up. But a lot of changes happening this year.
Yeah, I know for you guys, it's like, and gals, you're on the road, you're on tour, you're hitting the gigs, you're doing this, you're in the fast lane, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're here. And I can certainly relate. I was like, I got a lot of time to do a lot of things that I had to do. And I was like, oh, great, now I actually have to do them.
Right. And I mean, I had a record in the making before the pandemic. So this whole pandemic year, actually, what's been left to do with the record is nothing recording wise, really. It's just been marketing and distribution and all, figuring out all that stuff, photo shoots. So I've been preparing the release of that record, which will be out in March, just coming up. So that's also been something.
Well, I want to hear about that later. I want to hear what Emmet's doing besides growing his hair out.
Um, that's the main thing. Yeah, so I guess, my most recent thoughts have been that, like jazz has music in general, not only jazz, but especially creative music where we play together. It like has this way of kind of bringing people together, but like making everyone feel some version of the same thing. And like when you're in a room and you're like all in on a concert, and it's like, everyone's in the zone, the performers and the audience, everyone feels that same version of like togetherness in the moment. And I think like the pandemic on a broad scale has like done that to the entire world. It's like one large like kind of concert effect thing that the entire world is feeling like some version of the same thing, and like, the usual hamster wheel has kind of either stopped for some people or slowed down. And it's just a lot more time to like think about like things that you never think about, like who am I, or like what do I really want, or what really matters, or which relationships in my life or do I want to continue to foster, or what other parts of myself, I'm speaking for myself now, what other parts of myself do I want to work on. And like, so it caused me to take a step back and be like, I never cooked a meal in my life in the past, being living in New York City, playing a gig every night, getting dinner. For me, just spending time cooking. What's it like to take care of plants? I've gotten all these plants, and I'm like, oh, this is how you like foster, take care of something and grow. And this is what it feels like to have plants in my apartment, which I never did before, because I was on the road all the time. I've been doing yoga almost every other day, since March, and my practice has gone from here to here. And I'm speaking of things and reading too. I've read a ton of books in this pandemic, which is something that, like Veronica was talking about, having the energy to do when you're on the road, practice having energy to do anything when you're on the road. All you have the energy to do is make it from your bed to the airplane, from the airplane to the next city, sound check, gig, sponsorship dinner, hang, check out the city, and then rinse and repeat. And it really leaves very little time for like practicing your instrument or thinking about music or reading a book or cooking a meal or doing anything. So those are some of the non-musical things. And also classical piano. I've gotten a chance to get back in a little bit, which I studied really seriously until I was 18. And haven't had too much time since then. So those are all things that I've been doing for myself and for the world. We started a little concert series here that's called Live from Emmett's Place, and it happens in this apartment here, in this little 500 square foot apartment. And we set up 4 cameras, and somebody's there with a switcher, and we have a sound man now. And I've been inviting guests from New York and from all over to come and have a communion with us. And it's been a really powerful thing, I think, for the community, for the musicians to come and get a chance to play. Veronica's been a number of times to play with us, and it's been a very symbiotic thing, cathartic for us to be able to play and do what we do and feel the vibrations, and also to give the people who are desperate for some art, for some jazz, for some music, for some togetherness, for some community, for some general good vibes, something to feed their soul and nourish their hearts.
Wow. Well, I think that's a good segue. You're talking about Live at Emmett's and talking about 4 cameras and a sound guy. And so, of course, the pandemic has made us all really realize the role that technology now has to play, and kind of also realizing what our relationship was before and now, and what it might be after. So I'm just kind of wondering what your guys' thoughts are. What was your relationship with technology before the pandemic, and how do you foresee that relationship once we all get shot up and we're immunized here?
Neither Veronica and I are very like tech savvy people. I mean, I play the acoustic piano. Veronica sings with the most luscious, beautiful voice you ever heard in your entire life, like chocolate milk. Um,
Right.
and and I'd like spend the majority of my time getting a nice sound out of the piano and trying to figure out how to play this acoustic instrument, which is one of the hardest things to do in the whole world, maybe second to singing, where you can't just press the button and the note comes out. So neither of us are really technologically savvy, but I've figured out streaming and watched a bunch of YouTube videos and figured out little technologies and open broadcast software and how to get that to Facebook, to YouTube. And, it's been a gradual thing. And I have a bunch of friends who are super into recording, and they tell me which mics to buy and where to place them over the piano, and been experimenting and tweaking. And, for me, it's all become like part of my creative output. Like I play piano, I write music, I've learned songs, I play Great American Songbook, improvise with other musicians. Like that's part of my creativity. But my other parts of my artistry are, how to set up a concert and curate a concert series on Monday nights, and how to set up a place on my website where people can come together and show their support, and how to just keep it moving and going forward, because I'm not the best at sitting still with my thoughts, but I will if I have to.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Veronica? Technology. Tell me about its role in your
It
life.
has no place in my life.
Okay, next question.
Yeah, no, that's someone else's, to me, that's someone, I'm going to let someone who has the authority on that, subject, take the reins, even if it means like, in some situations, like, yeah, you could save money on a videographer here and there, but I think for me personally speaking, I think my time is better spent harvesting the things that I think I really might be able to use in my career at this point. Maybe if this pandemic had hit before I really had kind of like a path that I was on already with what I do, I think maybe that would have been a necessity. But right now, I think my efforts are better spent on
Mm-hmm.
others.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, and also I just don't have the talent for it.
Well, you're doing a great job. She writes charts out on music writing software, like better than
That's the extent of my
better than
technology.
anyone I know. Everyone has their own niches in the technology world that they do. Veronica and I send voice memos back and forth, like, "Hey, like, do you know this lyric? What's this song?" Like, we use technology to stay in touch. That's what it's in our lives for.
Right, and of course, I mean, I just meant like the videography stuff and I'm on Instagram and stuff like that. I'm not a complete, detached from society person, but yeah.
No, I get it. Well, so then how about this one? So we definitely have a lot. In fact, this year we have like a record number of students who are registered to attend. And that's partially because it's all virtual and it's all month, and it's kind of almost, we're providing a curriculum for schools to adopt if they would like. So there's tons and tons of students who are watching right now. So I'm wondering if you have any pieces of advice for our young middle school, high school age students who,
Oh, that's young, yeah.
yeah, like they love jazz and they're interested in doing it, but they're kind of at this very beginning stage. What kind of advice would you have for those who are eager to learn and grow?
Go ahead, V.
Well, I'm just trying to remember. It's not been that long ago. I'm 26, but still, like 10 years is a very long time, especially in that, from teenager to 20s. That's exponential amount of learning each, year, every month, every day. I'm trying to remember kind of the things that I figured I needed to focus on. I was really hung up on getting into a college that, had a good music program. And I already had a career at this point in my life as well. So but even, just playing locally, even then, it's a career, right? If you're making money from playing locally. And I was focused on all these career things, like what am I going to set in place now so that ensures but then I also was catching myself, also because of my parents being musicians. They were very influential. I kind of also saw the necessity to just take it all in at that time. And developing a sound comes from just kind of being present in having goals is great. And then also within that, being present with where you are and listening. I was just listening and really just being a student on my own time, inquiring about, who are my favorite singers and instrumentalists, and then who did they listen to, and just tracing it back as far as I could and finding new things I loved about this music, and other kinds of music. Because of course the jazz music is a culmination of all kinds of cultural inspirations and sounds and rhythms. And so I was really just being really inquisitive, as we all should all the time, and just trying to focus on staying present in terms of, because we get a lot of questions from people in high school, middle school, like, how do you find your sound, and this, which are really really, big abstract questions to answer. So it's kind of hard to answer. But I hopefully, if there are, do they have any specific questions
That's the
or
kind of thing that we will find
that's, yeah.
out, and that I will get spun around.
Okay.
But I think, I have a good idea though. So we all went to the University of Miami. So I'm interested to hear what each of your experiences was like there.
Well, I think Emmet's turn.
Yeah, Emmett, what was your experience like at the U?
I'm from Miami originally. So part of my decision to go there was kind of like this homecoming, like where did I come from? So I moved to Montclair, New Jersey from Miami when I was 11 years old. And so I was like, what is this place that I kind of grew up for 10 years when I was a child? And that was one of the reasons. And another reason was that Shelley Berg told me to come to school there and that he would be my mentor. And I had a deep connection with him when I met him in Indianapolis at the Jazz Band of America, and we had a few moments, and I realized how deep of a human being and a musician, pianist, educator, businessman. He was really like everything that I aspired to be and still aspire to be, in my own way, of course. So I went there to spend time with him and to be with him, and he, gave me everything that he promised and more. And so I'm so grateful to him. And so large part of my experience revolved around that. I am interested in balancing myself as a human being, and I didn't think that conservatory was the right balance for me. I wanted to take other classes and be around other human beings and learn what it was like to live in a dorm room with another person who maybe wasn't a musician, and other people on the floor who were maybe football players freshman year, and it was just a different outlook than a lot of my friends who went straight to conservatory got. And it was a good place to go outside of New York and get my together, as they like to say, because when you come to New York, you're only as good as your last gig or your last performance or whatever it is, and you're constantly having to prove yourself, and it can be exhausting, especially when you're 18, 19, 20 years old. And it was good for me to be able to just develop and figure myself out as a person away from the grand stage of New York. So that was my path. I'm not saying it's a problem to go straight to New York. Plenty of people come straight to New York and live beautifully enriched lives.
Yeah, we've played a lot of them.
And as far as advice would go to any, people younger than me, I think Veronica nailed it and said, stay inquisitive, be curious about things. When I was in middle school, I was super into Charles Parker and John Coltrane, and I played the clarinet as my band instrument, and I would play their solos on clarinet and saxophone, and I'm a pianist. So I was, trying to branch out in other directions, and I was always, trying to just trying to stay consistent. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like everyone's like, I have so long to go, I have such a long way to go. I have so much to learn, I have so much to practice. And really the whole thing comes down to consistency. We have a mentor here named Johnny O'Neill, and he said, hey son, the best jazz musicians are the most consistent jazz musicians. And I was like, yeah. So you do what you can and you stay even. That means practicing your instrument for an hour a day. And you're in 6th grade. By the time you get to 12th grade, you're gonna probably have that full scholarship to go wherever you want to go for college. And if you practice once a week for 5 hours, that's less consistent. It's more sporadic. You might not see the growth that you want. So that's my immediate advice.
Awesome. I love that. Well, so now I want to ask you a little bit about what we're going to hear this evening in your concert. And I know you're going to talk a lot about the new album coming out. So I'm just going to kind of open the floodgate.
Well, yeah, it's connected to the new record. We're going to do a lot of songs from the new record. I just feel that it's funny because we recorded the album back November, December of 2019. So before we didn't know at that time that we were going to miss out on a year's worth of work. And we didn't know what was to come. This was just, kind of an album that I saw that maybe I might want to do someday. And something told me that this was the right time to do it. A lot of the songs on this record do address certain global issues, right? And issues on the home front. I mean, you'll hear the songs later, but we address, you know, things like, well, and not with any kind of, we're not aiming to make a statement on anything really, but it's just addressing these issues in a way that's kind of, you know, it's not like taking an opinion on anything, but we do songs, it's with a hint of cynicism too, but still in a serious nature. We do songs like Dave Frishberg's The Sports Page, which, for example, and we do songs addressing kind of domestic abuse, like Prisoner of Love, which is a standard. So these songs have been around for a long time, and people listen to them. And yes, they address very heavy issues, you know. And if you can do it without, you know, without alienating anyone, I think that's an accomplishment. And I hope I have done that with this record. So we're just gonna do a bunch of songs like that, and they're swinging, and can't not be swinging with Emmet, you know. So I'm really excited to. This is also just a reuniting concert for me and Emmet, and I'm just really excited to get to open up these tunes again and kind of dust off the cobwebs too.
Yeah, and Veronica and I, we try to come up with ways to keep things interesting, and keep things fresh, and that means oftentimes surprising ourselves. And I think the last time we played together, you know, we were like, let's do something off the record, and let's do something that we've never
done before.
That we've never ever played before, like, and just see what happens. And you know, for us, you know, we're always looking for new concepts and new ways to kind of approach something. And so, you know, we might get together 2 minutes before the concert and say, hey, let's try this, or we have this idea, want this tune into this tune, or you know, she might just start singing something, and I might be like, oh, it's this, oh, I thought it was going this way. And part of the freedom of playing with two people is that there's only, you know, two people to worry about. You don't have to put music in front of, you know, 18 people in a big band and make sure everyone's on the same page. You know, we can toss it up in the air and say, okay, now you take it this time, and the trust is that we have between us is actually more, I would say more important to focus in on than the actual songs we're playing, because we can play any song, and we can, you know, we can play the blues, we can you know, play something from a pop with a pop sensibility, or, you know, modern day thing. We play original composition, but really, you know, it's all serving the same purpose. It's like, how can we be in this moment together and put out something into the universe that's fresh and exciting, and new and unique, and old and respectful of the tradition, and, you know, all those things at the same time. And jazz is full of paradoxes like that, where it can be old and new at the same time, or it can be, you know, it can be whatever you want it to be, and we can keep reinventing it. And that's what we try to do every time we get on stage, is reinvent everything we know to be true. That's a bit esoteric, but.
That's awesome. Well, where and when can we get it?
March 16th, is it? I think. Sorry, I know this when I'm posting stuff, but I think it's the 16th actually.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a few singles out right now.
Yeah, I heard congratulations.
I think it sounds pretty good. Sports is punches
That's
through.
An epic solo.
Yes, it is.
Oh my
yes,
God.
it is.
I'm like, why is this solo so long? Whose idea was that?
And I love that those what?
You listen to something back you did, you know, a year ago, and like, my taste would tell me to do something different now. But it's, you know, what a jazz recording is a snapshot of where you were in that moment and documenting that journey. So it's funny to look back and look back on the journey with humor and with respect for who you were.
And I think that's what makes, you know, there's a lot. I mean, there's other genres that do this, but really, I think jazz was built on such an improvisational base that I think that's what makes it so unique. You know, as opposed to what we're accustomed to in these genres, classical and rock and roll. You know, Van Halen, he's playing mostly the same solo every time because it's such an iconic, recognizable thing. That's part of the genres, right? But I think our music, what Emmet put it perfectly, this music is it takes a snapshot in time, and that's what it's very live music, which is why we need to, you know, nurture and any chance we can to bring it to people, because it's about that community, and it's a very live music. We feed off each other in that nature live.
Mm-hmm. Well, if the audience hasn't already figured it out, we're taping this far before it's airing, which means that by the time you're watching this, this album's out. And so if you have not already bought it 3 or 4 times, please go and do that. And I know that I'm going to go and grab that as soon as it releases because we are taping pre-release. That's going to be awesome. I can absolutely relate. I've been trying to record an album with one of my groups for the last year, since the pandemic started, really. And it's all like remote. And I think I've recorded my stuff at least 3 or 4 times because we'll do it, we'll wait, and I'll be like, dang, I need to do this differently. So I absolutely can relate to that. Well, let's see. What other fun questions do I have? Oh yeah. So let's fast forward to the time when everyone is now safe to go back outside and re-enter society. Emmet, what is the first thing you're gonna do?
The first thing I'm gonna do is hug my parents. I haven't touched my parents in, in 10 months.
Yeah. Get it.
Yeah, see the old people in my life. My surrogate grandpa Tootie Heath. I will go to see him. I will go to see the elderly people that have been staying away. Houston Person, George Coleman, Ron Carter. These people that are my surrogate grandparents who have been there with me for the past number of years, and who we've been spending mostly time around younger people in this era, just because we want to be safe and we want to, protect.
But we don't want to live in fear either. I mean, we want to be safe as we have to protect everybody. But it's calculated risks. And that comes to personal choice and freedoms. And I know that everyone has their own.
Yeah, but we took a flight. We took a flight July 29th, I think, to go to Aspen. Veronica and I and Russell Hall and Kyle Poole, and we were like, this is a risk, I guess. There's a lot of uncertainty. We're going to go out here. We need to bring the music to the people. And I've been saying, what would Dizzy Gillespie and Louis Armstrong and all our heroes, they would get on the plane and they would bring the music to the people. And so, the antidote to this stuff is art and it's community. And so, we're inching towards it. And when the world,
even Johnny O'Neill he's playing gigs out and about when he can.
Yeah, older states in New York City. So we're taking it one day at a time and trying to stay positive. That's the vibe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Veronica? What's first on the menu when we're unleashed?
Well, I was gonna say the same thing Emmett said, really, because I miss Houston, I miss Everett Tootie and everyone so much. And I actually realized I haven't really, because I'm not on gigs with them too often, but I really like to sing with these guys. I'm always in the audience. And it's not because I want to, get on gig or whatever. It's not for an ambitious reason. It's just because I don't, this time has taught me that we really can't take any moments for granted. And if anything, Emmett's taught us too, through his Masters, his legacy series, his projects, that each moment is precious, even before the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And so I really need to I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional.
Yeah, it's we've been on this road for a while, and we got cabin fever and we're crazy.
Yeah.
And
I think also just appreciating, I would appreciate this stuff when I was on the road, because I never had the time or chances to do this kind of stuff. But little stupid things like going bowling, going to see a movie, that, when I was off the road, I never did any of that stuff, just because I appreciated just vegging out on my couch and watching Netflix. But now I've had nothing but vegging out on my couch and watching Netflix. So also appreciating, community things, escape rooms, I don't know, just activity kind of stuff with people that, and just engage with people I don't know and I would never have known. Because there are people that are taking this time to become better people, but there's a lot of negative energy out there too. You see it. All of you guys see it. I know
there's always that, and we got to counter it with that positivity.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Well, awesome. You mentioned the Masterworks legacy, Veronica. Emmet, can you tell us a little bit about that for those who don't know?
Yeah, I had an opportunity to go play when I first moved to New York to play New Year's Eve at the Kennedy Center with the Dizzy Gillespie Alumni Orchestra. And it was like this really cool gig that I was super excited about. I just moved to New York and I got this opportunity to sub for someone who couldn't make it. And we rode the bus down on New Year's Eve, and playing first tenor in the band was Jimmy Heath, and he was sitting like caddy corner, and he was talking all about growing up in Philadelphia and John Coltrane coming up with House for dinner, and lending Charlie Parker his saxophone, and then staying at the gig and watching him play it so he wouldn't go and pawn it afterwards, and then like taking the same saxophone and playing it in his basement. And I was like, man, these stories are like, this is the real jazz education. I don't know, whatever the curriculum said you were supposed to learn, or the history book said, or like, I'm talking to the guy. This is it. And I was like, this is where I need to be. And so I was like, okay, how can I not only become closer to these musicians that are still with us, but also bring my entire generation of people, young like-minded musicians who want to know this information closer to these people. And so I made a series of records where I was able to call young musicians and put them with the jazz masters, and it really kind of came to life as this incredible platform for the exchange between the generations, which is so rare in our society as a whole. And which is what makes jazz and the related arts so special, that the generations can really interact in a way that they don't, in sports, or in a way that they don't in, government, or, you don't see many young people in government, you don't see many old people in sports. Jazz, you have all kinds of people, all genders, all races, all sexual preferences. It's supposed to be inclusive, and that's what I'm saying.
Well said. There's a mic drop in there somewhere. Well, yeah, I think we're all looking forward to hearing what you guys are going to play later this evening, which is this is in April now. And I wanted to thank both of you for coming on and talking to the Treasure Valley, and I suppose our global audience, because we theoretically have a global audience since we're all virtual. So yeah, I wanted to thank you both again. I really look forward to hearing what you're going to play, and I appreciate your outlook on life and the positivity, and I know everyone watching is going to appreciate that as well. So unless you have any other further remarks, I think we're gonna sign off for the day.
No, thank you. Follow us on Instagram, and if you have any questions, you can find us there. If you send Veronica a message and say, "Hey, what was your favorite Ella Fitzgerald solo?" She'll write you back and she'll tell you, because we generally care about jazz education and making sure people have the right information, and that's what it's about. So hit us up on Instagram and Facebook, and yeah, it's easy to find.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, some of my gigs I've had, and not just gigs, but opportunities to do like educational outreaches and stuff like that have come from Instagram inquiries. So yeah, we're really active on there, and we check our Instagram, and don't be afraid.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, take care, and we will see you at the next interview and concert. So have a good one.
Thanks so much, Eric. Bye, everyone in Boise.
Bye, Boise.